Welcome to Grow Your Wealth, the podcast where scaling a successful brand and your wellness go hand in hand. I'm Rena Goodwin, founder and CEO of FACTEUR PR, a top beauty, health, and wellness PR studio, and I'm here to help you work smarter, not harder. Each week, we'll talk branding, marketing, and business growth alongside real, practical insights from trailblazers who are building businesses without the burnout. If you're ready to grow your brand, protect your energy, and design a life you love, you are in the right place. Let's grow. Hey guys, welcome back to Grow Your Wealth. My name is Rena Goodwin, and today I want to start today's podcast episode asking you something that I want you to be really honest with yourself when you answer. When you first launched your business or when you were starting to really think about growing it, what was the first thing that you did? Did you build a website? Did you run ads? Did you do PR? Did you post on social media? Did you maybe hire someone to help you promote the business? If the answer is yes, and for many of you, it might have been all of the above, just maybe not at the same time, you are not alone. And many founders understandably do exactly just that. It's certainly no small feat to launch a business. And by the time that it's ready for prime time, we just want to jump right into promotion. And a lot of founders, they end up wondering why they're getting all these clicks, but maybe they're just not converting. Why things like online ads are costing more every month, but the returns are not keeping pace, and why people are seeing their content, but they're not necessarily buying. Okay. We've all been there. The problem isn't necessarily the promotion. The problem is that the promotion came on an unsturdy foundation. I want to talk about that sturdy foundation today and walk you through a framework that I call the 5 Ps of brand building. And it is the foundation of everything that we do at FACTEUR PR through our Path to Prominence methodology. And if you've been spinning your wheels, trying to grow, or maybe not growing as fast as you'd like, or you just want to work smarter, not necessarily harder, big theme around here, this episode is going to explain exactly what we can do instead. So let me start with why the order of these 5 Ps when it comes to building a brand matters, okay? Because I think it is a piece that a lot of founders genuinely miss just because they're moving so fast. First of all, brand building is not a collection of tactics that you can necessarily deploy in any order. It is truly, in my experience, a sequence. I've worked with hundreds of businesses over the last 10 years, and this is the exact framework that I use, not just to help build my clients' brands, but to help build my brand as well too. My business, FACTEUR PR, my main business, I should say, generates over 7 figures a year. And guys, I don't spend any money on ads. Again, not saying ads are not wonderful. Ads are great. But I will be spending money on ads in the future because now I'm at a point where my brand is so sturdy that I'm confident that when I do invest in ads, my cost to acquire a customer won't be so competitive because I've got organic brand growth and stability that will help my ads convert even better. So I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. But back to the sequence. I'm going to give you these 5 Ps in a very distinctive order because when you skip steps or you start in the wrong place, the whole thing I have found is that it becomes wobbly because you end up ultimately spending a lot more than you really need to, converting less, which definitely sucks, and feeling like you're always chasing something like just out of reach. And the good news, as I preface this as well too, my friends, is that if you are listening to this today and you're like, shoot, I skipped that step. Oh, never did that. Or it's been a while since I did that. Guess what? You can always go back to the beginning too. Okay. It doesn't mean starting your brand all over again, but for your next launch, consider this a great framework to follow as well. So let's start with the first P, which is positioning. Positioning is where Everything must begin. And it's honestly the most skipped step in brand building, believe it or not. Not because people don't believe that it matters. They know it matters, but because it's hard, right? It's how we package our brand. It's how we talk about our brand, how we want to influence how people talk about our brand and what our brand is known for, because it requires you to get sometimes a little bit uncomfortably specific about who you are, who you serve, and why you are the only choice for your customers, your clients, or your patients. Not one of many choices, the one choice. This is really where your uniqueness and ultimately differentiation lives. And differentiation and uniqueness is really not optional right now, particularly in the wellness and health space. It's so crowded. I don't have to tell you guys that. It's been more crowded now than it ever has been. It's likely going to become even more crowded in the future. There are thousands of practitioners, founders, experts competing for literally the same attention. On a previous episode with Cameron Hemphill, I had mentioned a statistic that there are almost even just as many aesthetic practices as McDonald's here in the United States. Guys, that is some steep competition. So if your positioning sounds like everyone else in your category, things are going to be harder down the line. Your ads will probably underperform. Your PR pitches won't quite land, and your content is going to blend in. I don't know about you guys. I did not start a business to blend in. Okay. Positioning is what makes everything downstream more efficient. When you are clear on who you are, who you serve, every decision, I promise you, gets easier. Every piece of content now has a distinctive point of view. Every pitch has an angle. Every campaign has a hook. Without it, you're essentially throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping something sticks. That is not a strategy. So take the time to get your positioning right before you do anything else. Now, P number 2 is proof. So once you are clear on your positioning, you need the proof to back it up, right? This is where I want to make that distinction that I think is really important, because people sometimes confuse like credibility with authority all the time, and they are not the same thing. Proof is your results. It's your credibility. What does that look like? Okay, your testimonials, case studies, credentials, your track record, essentially. This is the evidence that what you do actually works. This is the evidence that you are who you say you are, right? Authority, on the other hand, is what you earn when your proof is consistently visible over time, okay? So credibility is proof of assurance, whereas authority is proof of influence. Authority is your credibility recognized visibly, okay? So you can't just skip to being an authority. You have to have credibility in order to build authority. You build towards that. So think about this from a consumer perspective. According to Edelman Research, trust is now a buyer boycott factor for 71% of global consumers. People are not just buying a product or a service anymore. They are buying into a brand that they believe in. And before they believe in you, they need to see evidence that you deliver. Otherwise, it's just like a hope and a prayer that they're going with you. And hopes and prayers, I mean, I've seen them help a business, but they're not going to necessarily build a business, right? Testimonials, befores and afters, client outcomes, peer recognition, case studies, research, your training, your education. This is the foundation of credibility. This is the evidence that you are able to deliver. This is the evidence that you are who you say you are and that you are worth paying attention to. This is how we further differentiate and further build your uniqueness as well too. So when you have this, your story becomes more credible. And a credible story is what ultimately amplifies online, right? Without it, even the best media placement in the world, the best PR in the world is going to possibly land flat because there is nothing underneath it to back it up, right? This is a great example I'm about to give you. It is why like an influencer that talks about skincare and, wow, look what works for me. They don't get interviewed by the media. And if they do, it's usually for something like crazy breaking news, like influencer used this at-home DIY skincare technique and ended up burning their skin. It's usually not good news. Let me put it that way. So I will not, as a public relations expert, I will not take a skincare influencer as a client. Why is that? Because they don't have credibility to back up their advice, basically, right? Whereas like a dermatologist has the credibility to be backing up their advice. Do you see what I'm saying here? So if you're not a doctor or whatever, don't worry, right? You want to make sure that whatever it is that you're ultimately trying to sell, that you have credibility. So here's another example of this. I work with a skincare brand over at FACTEUR PR called Mind the Skin. They're amazing. They're an eczema skincare brand. The founders of the brand are not doctors. They're not pediatricians. They're not dermatologists. It is at the helm, a woman named Audrey. She is an eczema warrior. She has that lived experience, which makes her positioning unique, right? To build her brand's credibility, what did she do? She borrowed it from experts. They did clinical studies with derms. They did clinical studies with pediatricians. Our team helped them get dermatologists and pediatric dermatologists as key spokespeople for media as well, right? This is how you can also help build that credibility without necessarily like being a physician, so to speak. So I hope that little tidbit is helpful for you. Next, let's talk about the third P, which is press. Now, we are in my world here, I know, but this is what I want you to understand about press. It's not a shortcut and it's not a vanity play. I see this step skipped all the time where people go, yeah, I get it. I got to have a strong brand. Yeah, I get it. I need some like proof and testimonials, but I'm going to go straight to promotion now and skip the press part. Can you build a brand that way? Absolutely. That being said, having the press, right, having the authority is going to be a game changer down the line. Press is not a shortcut. It is not a vanity play, as I mentioned. It is one of the most powerful credibility multipliers that exists when you deploy it at the right time in this right sequence, because press is where your positioning, where your credibility gets validated and endorsed. It's where your proof gets broadcasted to audience that maybe you couldn't reach on your own, right? A feature in Women's Health or Washington Post or Business Insider, for example, they don't just bring you added visibility. It tells every person who encounters that placement, either directly or through your channels, that someone with standards has vetted you. Okay. These are major media and they are available to you as well. You just need to know how to work it. And that is a different kind of trust than anything that we can buy or self-generate, right? And here's what I also want to push back on a little bit. Earned media is not just about a big feature. What I'm not claiming that you absolutely must do is get like a full page feature in Allure for your skincare brand before you start doing advertising. No. What I am saying is that this is about being present consistently across multiple types of coverages like expert roundups, trend stories, doing some podcast interviews, bylines, product features. Each one of those is doing something different for your brand, and it is reaching different audiences, building familiarity in different contexts as well too. And the brands that are winning at building authority and winning at PR are the ones that understand that variety is the strategy. It's not a compromise. This is also the core of our Path to Prominence program at FACTEUR, and it's a systematic approach to building reputation and then recognition and then revenue over time. So we're going to get to that here next, because our fourth P is promotion. This is where your ads, your influencer partnerships, your paid social, your email campaigns, all of that promotional push comes in. And notice where they sit in the sequence. They sit fourth, not first, because when you promote a brand, that has clear positioning, that has documented proof and press behind it, everything changes. Your ads convert better because the audience has already been warmed up. They've seen your name somewhere credible, and they have encountered your point of view. They already have a sense of who you are before they click. And here's the business case as well, too, for following this order. A 2025 study found that nearly 75% of performance marketers are experiencing diminishing returns on their social media ad spend. That is terrifying. And the primary culprits to this is that audience saturation and ad fatigue. So when you keep pushing the same ads to the same audiences without an organic foundation underneath, we see costs go up and we see returns go down. And you end up spending more to reach less profitable audiences just to maintain your numbers. So revenue might climb, but margin compresses because you are chasing cold audiences with increasingly expensive bids. But that's not just me, the PR girl, saying that. That's also Alex Hormozy, business entrepreneur and investor, who says this as well. Even just here on the Grow Your Wealth podcast last year, Fulia Ugan, who's the founder of Bowery Boost and a paid media expert, we had her on episode 25 of Grow Your Wealth, and she exclaimed exactly this. Her point was very direct. The single best way to make your ads perform better is to build organic first. Build the brand, build earned media, build trust, and then amplify it with paid. Because when your brand has equity, your ad dollars go further. You are not starting from zero every time. You have a head start. Hi, friends. I want to tell you about our new and improved authority accelerator from FACTEUR PR called RealFluence. RealFluence is the only membership that helps beauty and wellness founders grow their reputation and authority to attract new customers without endless discounting, advertising, or going viral. Inside, you'll learn how to get recognized for your product or your expertise, partner with other founders, and become the name people trust and talk about, all with the guidance and community to support you every step of the way. Remember, you can't buy authority. You have to earn it. And RealFluence is here to help. Visit therealfluence.com to get started. Last but not least, the fifth P is for profit. This is where everything starts to compound. And I use that word intentionally because this is not a linear equation, if you couldn't tell. This is when trust converts, when your authority attracts, and your reputation retains for the long run. When your positioning is clear, when your proof is documented, your press is building authority, and your promotion is amplifying a brand that people recognize and then they trust, the math changes. Conversion rates improve, customer lifetime value goes up, referrals increase because people advocate for brands that they believe in and that they've seen the results. According to research from Edelman, 87% of consumers are willing to spend more too with a brand that they trust. That's not a small premium. That is called pricing power. That is margin protection. And that leads to sustainable growth. And that's really what I mean when I say profit is where this process compounds. Every step you take in the right sequence builds on the one before it. It's not wasted, and none of it has to be rebuilt from scratch every quarter or with every launch or with every new product, right? It accumulates and it builds on itself. And that's what I want for you. And I want to be direct about this because I see it constantly. It's so instantly satisfying, right? To just go straight into promotion. And for some of you, that might make sense, okay? But what I have seen in my position is that when founders skip things like positioning and proof and press and go straight to the promotion, right? They really turn their business into like a commodity. They're essentially playing a game to amplify a message that is oftentimes not quite differentiated enough or unique enough to cut through. And when they skip the proof and they go straight to the rest, it can honestly start to be this like hamster wheel where you're relying on paid ads alone without that organic foundation. And eventually you hit a ceiling, and breaking through that ceiling gets more and more expensive. So if you're listening to this today and you're like, I resonate, or, hey, I was able to get my brand only so far, but now I really want to not just build a business where it gets more expensive to promote it all the time, but really build a brand with longevity. What's so great about these 5 Ps of building a brand is that it's not too late to go back to the beginning. And I don't mean to completely scrap your business or brand or anything and start all over again. No, but you can refresh, right? You can audit where you are. You can identify the steps that have been skipped or rushed, and you can rebuild from there. And I've seen this happen. Last week, I had a new business call with a potential client. It's a K-beauty brand, and they have been in business for like 5 years. They've made something like $10 million already in revenue this year. They're coming up to a new launch, and they're like, we've actually never really done meaningful press. And they're going back with this new launch because they've got a new distribution channel, a new major retailer here in the United States. And we're like, we need to get to our ideal customers through the media and work on our positioning. They have the proof now, which is great because they've been in business now for a few years. But now with their launch, right, they want to follow this sequence. So I see it all of the time. And again, it's never too late. That is the beauty. Once again, it's not a one-time linear path for people just starting out. It's more like a diagnostic. You can pick it up at any stage, figure out where the gap is, close it. And when you do, everything downstream gets easier almost immediately. So this is also what our path to prominence is built on at FACTEUR PR. It's what this podcast is built on too, because my friends, growing your wealth is not just about moving fast. It's about building something that lasts. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope this episode was helpful. If you loved it, share it with a business bestie. Please leave a review. And if you are interested in learning more and possibly working with me, head to therealfluence.com for our Authority Accelerator. Realfluence, it's a do-it-together platform, or send me an email at hello@facteurpr.com. Head to facteurpr.com/contact to book a call. And I'd love to hear more about your business and share more about how we can help build your brand and grow your wealth. In the meantime, take care, and I'll see you back here next week. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this episode deposited some useful advice and insights to help you grow your wealth. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future conversations. You can find more resources, episode details, and updates at growyourwealthpodcast.com. And let's keep the conversation going on Instagram. Follow me at Grow Your Wealth Podcast. I'd love to hear your thoughts, questions, or takeaway from today's show. Until next time, remember, burnout is optional. Take care, and I'll see you next week.